Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the June meeting of the Delaware County Jail Oversight Board. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Joining us remotely today, we have Judge Kroll. Judge, can you hear us? I believe that's Judge Kroll.
It is.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. And we also have Deb Love. Deb, are you there?
I am. I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. All right, with that, we'll move into the meeting for today. As always, we have 2 rounds of public comment. The first round will be specifically associated with matters that are on the agenda tonight for consideration. Both the beginning and the end public participation rounds, we ask that folks limit their comments to 3 minutes per speaker. And please give your name and your township at the start of your comments. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the board today? Okay, we'll move on then to an approval of the meeting minutes from last month. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Joanne.
Second.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have a motion, a second.
I thank you for elevating me, but it was just Deb. It was just the Your Honor, Deb.
Right. 2 Debs that are virtual today, so I can't tell which is which. All right, thank you, Ms. Love. Is there any further questions or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to an approval of the reports from the warden and deputy warden from last month's meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve the reports from the last meeting.
Thank
This
you.
is Deb Love. I make a second.
Thank you, Ms. Love. Any questions or comments on the reports? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. With that, we'll move on to the executive director's report.
Yep. Just a few items. We are working at a county level on utilizing the opioid settlement funds for programs and services that any county departments or entities are using to support people with opioid substance use disorder. We are asking that everybody think about the expenses that any facility, again, at George W. Hill, any programs, and we're also looking to institute new programs to deal with opioid issues. So I know this the facility has a robust program with MAT and is very interested in making sure that as people come in and transition out of the facility, that they have the services they need to deal with this issue and to stay drug-free. So we're hopeful that we will be able to use these funds to make sure we're supporting programs and services, expanding them if needed, and adding programs that could help ensure that people get the service and treatment they need. So very interested in hearing some ideas and proposals. We talked about this at our last meeting with department heads and looking forward to anybody at the facility that has ideas coming forward through their chain and bringing those to our attention. Also wanted to talk about our budget task force. The county does have a budget task force made up of representatives from county departments, but also the community. We have over 60 members applied from the general public to be on the budget task force. All were accepted and are on 4 subcommittees: cost containment, capital improvements, revenue enhancement, and budget presentation. We have been talking about various issues, and George W. Hill is one of them. And they'll be providing detailed information on the expenses, how George W. Hill operates, how it's funded, and the trends over time. So very interested in providing that information. We have found that this task force is very interested in learning about county operations. We did take them on a tour of various facilities, including a county park, Fair Acres, our medical examiner's office. So I know they will be very interested in the capital projects that are happening, the staffing, the stabilization that we've been seeing. So very interested in looking forward to sharing this information with the general public through the Budget Task Force group. And then finally, just wanted to mention that the county is bringing back its employee recognition. So we're very glad to say this was something that had been on pause since COVID. It was an annual recognition, and we're bringing that back this year. It's going to be a little unusual this year since we have so many people to honor. We are making up the prior years. But we'll be having an event here at this facility. But because both George W. Hill and Fair Acres have a very large number of employees at 24/7 facilities that can't really get out, we will also be finding a way to make sure that they are recognized on site. And we'll be working with the warden as we work with the administrator at Fair Acres to make sure that those employees reaching those milestones also get recognized. So just want to thank everybody. We'll be sending around a list of everyone who has reached their milestones. And we do really appreciate everybody that has dedicated their time and service to the county.
All right.
Good for me.
Thank you, Director O'Malley. With that, we'll move on to the warden's report.
Thank you very much. Good evening, board. Just to touch on some of the elements that Executive Director O'Malley brought up, we have submitted through the opioid grant funding opportunities a multitude of reimbursements thus far, so services that have already been provided or covered within the facility for our robust MAT programs, and we will continue to do so to cover elements such as staffing, medication, and resources for those programs. We're trying to be as fiscally responsible with county dollars to see if we can alleviate some of the expenses for the agency while still meeting the Department of Justice's, position statements as it relates to medication-assisted treatment. And then for the budget task force, we are an engaged participant. As many people know, the operations of the facility require a pretty significant dollar amount in funding from county taxpayers. And so this month, we will be participating in the presentation, and we very much look forward to that.
If I could just remark on that, I think you really have two conflicting challenges that rise to the surface day in and day out. And I think the director's comments really point to that, right? Which is that we have services that we've added over the last few years that are very important to all of us, and they have very important impacts on our residents. But we're also faced with the realities of the budgetary challenges that we're all very aware of. And so when we have the opportunity to bring in non-county taxpayer dollars, or said differently, non-county real estate dollars, and apply them to these programs, we certainly take every opportunity to, but they only go so far. We only have available to us so much. And that's really where Warden, you and your team, they try to work alchemy every day to work with the limited resources we have to make these programs as successful as they are. So I just want to acknowledge that challenge that we have every day.
I think the task force presents a really unique opportunity as well to really educate individuals who may not be as close to the work as any of us, because we have to be acutely familiar with all of these many different demands and challenges. So it will be very interesting, I think, also in the progression of some of the other departments that they've spoken to learn how we fit within the criminal justice system as a whole, as well as a county public service agency for public safety, and the many, many demands that we have. So very much looking forward to this, and we'll likely be able to share at the next meeting some of the outcomes of that budget task force meeting. This morning's population was 1,097 incarcerated persons, which is an increase from last month's meeting. No real significant changes as it relates to our commitments, our weekender program. Again, as always, we are continuing to annotate when we have had exceptions to full recreation in the institution. All of the recreation challenges that we had within the last month were related to security issues. So there was either an incident on the housing block that required us to make sure everybody was secure within their cells while that incident was taking place, and or we would be conducting a security search.
Word, am I correct that number, it's a bit up from last month, but I think it's still down from where it was maybe 3 or 4 months ago?
Yes. So at the beginning of January of 2020, 25, we were hovering far more closely and consistently to the 1,200 mark. We've been pretty consistently around the 1,100 mark within the last several months. So thankfully, it is still a manageable population size, considering the other many demands that we have for management of the population right now.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, but as we talked about the last couple of months, I think it's particularly noteworthy and helpful as we go through the facility upgrades. It allows for your agency to really have flexibility of where we put folks when those numbers are down a little bit. So our thanks to the various agencies who have a role in that. It certainly helps.
Yes. And one of the additional presentations that we have this afternoon, where there's a ton of intersection, is with our records booking video services department, who works very closely with some of those stakeholders who are responsible for our population size. Again, you can see over the last couple of months, in terms of our statistics of population, while the population numbers have come down relatively slightly, they are stabilized in terms of the gender that we have within the institution, those that are sentenced versus pretrial, and then with our age and our race ethnicity trends. So we maintain pretty consistent demographic information within the institution. In terms of our commitments in the month of May, you can see that those charges that were the lead commitments, and again, those that might be newer to observing or watching any of our presentations, individuals come into custody for a number of different charges. They would come in maybe with one, maybe multiple. We identify the lead commitment being the more severe reason for their incarceration. If they have any additional detainers or probation detainers, that would be annotated. If they are coming into our custody for a bench warrant or a failure to appear, again, that would be included. And so this information is something that we're evaluating and reviewing closely. We do share this information with other stakeholders as an attempt to vet that information. So approximately 25% of the new commits that came into custody were committed under violation of probation or parole. Only one of those was state parole related. The rest would have been county probation related. 56 or nearly 11% were related to those bench warrants, failure to appear. Our behavioral health statistics. So again, within the summer months, we are definitely seeing that we have an increased demand for behavioral health. That has actually been a considerable theme for the entirety of this year. I have reached out to some of the Philadelphia Collier counties and other agencies that are representative in size to us. We are all experiencing this. I know that it's something that we've continued to talk about as well with some of the recent closures and the reduction in community resources. So we are also starting to evaluate things like individuals coming in with homelessness, behavioral health concerns, just to track and monitor. It's not that we can necessarily do impact or change those numbers, but start to see whether or not there are any trending increases from some of the closures within the community. And that, of course, is going to be something that we'll consistently watch. We do recognize that there are a lot of community partners and agencies that are working diligently to provide those services. So this is not to disparage any of them, but we are very limited in Delco. And so typically in correctional agencies, you see what is not working within society because that is reflected usually within our population. For our medication-assisted treatment programs, 171 individuals are currently on some form of medication for opioid use disorder, which represents 15.59% of the population. Sean, am I doing something incorrectly? Okay, we'll just pause.
While we're waiting for the video to come back. Just one number that I found interesting was the buprenorphine numbers have really come down dramatically over the course of the year to date. I think it's been cut by more than half
Those continued on buprenorphine?
I think so, but maybe
I think that
What was I seeing?
So you were seeing methadone.
Methadone.
Methadone is actually declining,
Okay.
whereas buprenorphine is actually increasing.
Okay.
And generally speaking, that could be an accessibility issue. It could be a number of different things. So methadone requires you, until you've been in treatment for a certain time period without any violations, that you go daily to a methadone clinic, which is a pretty significant demand on individuals, whereas buprenorphine is typically a 1 week or potentially 2 week script in which you are going to see your provider, have your check-in, physical, potentially, urine screen, to continue that treatment. So for some people, there are less demands or requirements. Again, it's not necessarily an indication of what a preference would be. In terms of our agency, we will continue any FDA-approved medication that somebody is clinically appropriate to continue. So methadone is that top line that you see coming down.
Right too. I was talking about buprenorphine. It's the fourth one down. So I'm looking at January, February, there were 37, then 26, then 21. May's down to 16.
Okay, so
It just seemed noteworthy enough of a change that I was wondering if there was something going on.
again, this is a different category. So there are two different forms of buprenorphine that are represented. If you look at the second category, so the second blue line from the top, 156 individuals were continued on oral buprenorphine. The line that you're referring to, the 16, that's an LAI, a long-acting injectable, which may be Brixadi, it might be Sublocade. I think there might be one other formulation that I am failing to remember presently. So again, that isn't something that is naturally influenced by us. It's individuals coming into custody that are already on an injectable form of long-acting injectable medication.
So what we may be seeing is a trend in the community around treatment going more away from the long-acting buprenorphine and toward the daily, I guess.
Correct, which could also, and this is an access issue with that many individuals are maybe not aware of. So we contract through Diamond Pharmacy for our medications within the institution. And one injectable, I'm not going to give you the exact dollar amount because I don't have it in front of me, but it's approximately $2,000. So if you do not have insurance that is going to cover that, coming up with $2,000 a month for one medication is a pretty significant burden. So oral formulations of the medication may be more accessible or it's not cost prohibitive. So this is just, simply what we're seeing. If somebody comes in on a long-acting injectable, it works for them and we're going to continue them on that medication. Any other questions about this slide? It's good to dig into it. We've got the numbers. Our June employees of the month, Officer Kyle Harris, Volunteer Coordinator Perry Matero, Sergeant Daryl Vinay, and Chaplain Coquilia Dunn. I also wanted to congratulate and acknowledge that we have some recent promotions and or hires or transfers within the institution. So Lieutenant John Olmachuk, we officially acknowledged his completion of full training, and he was formerly a sergeant within the institution and has recently been promoted and accepted that position. Sergeant Rashea Miles is still within her training period. She was formerly a classification coordinator, and Sergeant Matthew Stefano actually was a former employee who worked at the agency several years ago, and he has elected to return to us as a sergeant. And so we're welcoming him back, and he is in his training as well. Speaking of years of service, and at our agency, it might look a little bit differently, which is one of the reasons why we ensure that we're including this, because our original hire dates, of which were honored during the transition time period, to make sure that people were not losing out on benefits, regardless of the previous employer that they had. So there were several different private entities, but the individual gave their service to Delaware County. So these are from the original hire dates, and you can see the individuals that have more than 10 years of service. These are all individuals who have transitioned into their county, but the special shout out to those with more than 10, our instructor Damon Lodeholt, Range Master Damon Schneider, Correctional Officer Dennis Morgan, Correctional Officer Alicia Pope, Correctional Officer Noel Johnson, Sergeant Thomas Royals. We have Correctional Officer Frederick Pascal, Lieutenant John Nope. He has 8, sorry, and Correctional Officer Walter Alloway. And so many that have definitely given years of service, but those with more than 10. And I do believe those are kind of the marking points that we're going to be recognizing county service: 10, 15, 20, 25, more than 25. So congratulations to all of those employees. We hosted one graduation since our last meeting, and our graduation was last Friday on the 6th. You can see them pictured there. We actually had our magisterial district judge from down the street, Judge Wendy Roberts, who was able to attend and administer the oath at the agency. We loved having her. It was wonderful to have somebody that was so close and works so closely with our agency. Anytime somebody might gain, unfortunately, additional charges while they're in custody, typically they are going to be arraigned in front of Judge Roberts down the hill on the last Tuesday of every month. So she's been an enormous support to the agency and was able to speak to our graduating class. We did begin our most recent class on May 27th and have a scheduled graduation on July 3rd. And we are, of course, recruiting for our next class beginning on June 23rd. In terms of capital improvements and projects, the most significant update that we have is actually towards the bottom. And so we had our farm shop repaired, and that was something that was supported both by the Jail Oversight Board as well as County Council. The contract was awarded to EA Roofing Company, LLC. The project was set to begin on May 12th, and it did. I don't know if you guys recall, but during that week, we had pretty significant weather. The project was scheduled to be completed on May 30th, and somehow they did it. These individuals were traveling actually from Lancaster County every single day to and from. The work crew was absolutely incredible. They were some of the most professional. They kept their workspace clean. They followed all of their safety measures. We didn't have any violations, no work stoppages, no challenges throughout, and they just seemed to work very well at the agency. The work product in its completion is incredible. Having that as an additional asset for storage and for all of the many needs that we require is so huge and profound, and the fact that they were able to accomplish it so quickly. So I wanted to make sure that I said them by name because they truly deserve the acknowledgement and the thank you from the agency. It was a dedicated team of professionals: Manny Holstetter, Jason Holstetler, Malin Stoltzfus, Tom Foster, Elijah Boone, and Austin Landrum, and truly were incredible. Correctional Officer Luann Law primarily worked that detail. She had positive things to say. They had very positive remarks about her as well, how she was such a steward to making sure they understood the policies and the procedures, and was a great asset, resource, and assistant to them throughout. We are continuing our roof repair and HVAC work throughout the institution. So we have one roof that is in full completion, meaning the HVAC unit was completed, all of the recoating work was completed. We have another that is we have 2 others that are in partial completion, and we will be starting another one very soon. As a reminder, what this does is we have to move the populations around. We can't have inmates who are living in any areas where we don't have the ventilation working appropriately. They are able to live in the spaces in which we're doing the roof recoating work. There is absolutely no safety concerns with that work being done. That work does follow the HVAC units. So that project, despite weather challenges, is still presently on schedule-ish. We are about a week delayed, but that is something that we do believe we're going to be able to make up within the calendar schedule without it impacting our other larger project, which right now has been going on quite extensively. We have multiple crews that are working in our security systems project. We're still in the testing phase for many of the elements to ensure that as work begins, we know exactly what resources, timelines, and crews will be needed to execute those efforts.
We're just going back to I'm going to lump them together for the moment, but the HVAC and roof projects. I know we had talked previously about the fact that there was going to be an emphasis on the HVAC units that have been most problematic, and also kind of combined with that in, more areas of higher importance from a resident's perspective. Can you just comment on that, as we're not yet into the true hot summer months, but we're probably getting close to it.
So the next roof is probably our last most problematic unit. Though for full transparency's sake, and you guys are aware the amount of emergency repairs we've had to do over the last couple of years, they're all a priority, but we have been following that schedule. This has been managed largely by WTI and Tremco. Elliott Lewis is the one that's doing the actual work. They've been responsive and receptive to ensuring that we're following the schedule dictated by the agency to make sure that prior to entering those summer months, those units that were malfunctioning to the highest degree will be addressed.
Yeah, great.
And then the last slide as part of my presentation is our typical slide in terms of cost recovery items, just so that everybody can see the growth and development of the account, despite the fact that we are making those deductions in the monthly stipends each month. So still a very healthy volume account at the agency. Are there any questions that I can immediately answer before handing the presentation over?
Yeah, I have a question.
Your mic's not on. What?
Oh, sorry. I had a question. I ain't been here in a while, right? The yard time, I was looking at that slide and it was saying that there were no yard for about, it looked like
I put it back up there for you.
6 units, no recreation. I'm looking at second shift, then we're looking at both shifts. Is there a reason why?
Yes. So when I had showed this slide this evening, I had indicated that those were either related to an incident that occurred on the housing unit that needed to be controlled, and thus everybody needed to be locked in until the incident was resolved, and or a search. So if there was an incident that maybe occurred on the first shift, we would keep that unit in so that we could conduct a search. And it is not the full facility. That's why you see the designation of the housing block. So if we look at the very first bulleted item, on May 1st, both shifts, 6 Alpha only had no recreation, meaning for an entire day, the unit was not even the unit, the block was locked in and not permitted to come out for recreation.
Is that because of an incident, or is that just the policy? Like if something happened 8 o'clock in the morning, if they have evening or late afternoon yard, no one's allowed to go outside because of incident that might happen in the morning.
This is related to a security measure. It is not necessarily if an incident happens in the morning, they're locked in all day. And you can see that reflected in the data where it's typically, like that's an atypical example, which is why I highlighted that one, where it's generally speaking just on one shift in which they're locked in. But we would have a very legitimate reason. The agency is and has been motivated to get individuals out of their cell as much as possible. It just has to be safe and secure to do so.
Right. I only asked this question because I've been getting a lot of phone calls / sometimes emails about some people not getting yard time. I would love to be able to tell the constituents and the loved ones of the residents in the prison reasons why, because I know there's other reasons why they can't go out, right? I'm just trying to get some clarification so people would know.
Totally understand, which is why weekly Deputy Fowley sends to the entire board the spreadsheet for the recreation every single week.
Okay.
So you may not have it the day of, but if you would need that information more, if you need a response, you can, of course, as you have in the past, reach out to us that day. We may or may not, I'll be honest, we may or may not tell you the full details of the situation, but we do communicate that information because we want to make sure that you are aware when that does occur.
I had another question, and I just wanted to bring this stuff up because I think it's important. Is there ever an incident or a situation where a guard or a sergeant is running a block and they say that no one's going outside? Do those kind of things happen? Because those are some of the concerns that be coming to me as well. I'm hearing things about certain guards and certain sergeants saying that there's no yard, just because, and if something like that happened, what would be the process or the protocol of a resident or someone that's living on that block to make a concern about that if a grievance went in about someone's yard being taken?
So I want to make sure that we're using, I hate to get caught up in words, but they're important. Yard typically refers to outside recreation time. And there could be inclement weather that would prohibit somebody from having access to the yard. There could be a shift because, as you've seen, we have housing blocks that share a recreation yard, and we are not permitted to allow both of those blocks into the yard space at the same time. So one might have that in the morning, whereas the other might have that in the evening. I'm not trying to be evasive, but it's hard for me to answer your question. Could it be possible that a correctional officer or a sergeant says, you are not getting yard? Absolutely. But I think what I'm being asked is whether or not that's for a legitimate reason, or is this somebody abusing authority and just not allowing them to have a resource that they should be having? So I think we can and should look into that if you're getting that kind of information, or as you report, kind of consistent names, so we can investigate to determine whether or not that is occurring. But we do, weather dependent, you can always have recreation within the day room of your housing block. But the yard could be dependent on a number of other factors.
Yeah, I'll email you, call you, or whatever.
Perfect.
Take up a lot of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, I'll advance forward and we can have Deputy Warden Fowley begin his portion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Warden. Good evening, Chair Oversight Bellmember and members of the public. I have a very short slide because we spent the majority of the month of May doing a lot of interviews. So the major graduation date increased to 63%, and we increased our IPs. 15 IPs received a GED. I would like to thank the PA Department of Correction for inviting us and two of our employees, our mental health professional, Ms. Barron, and our substance use counselor, Ms. Jones, spent a whole week training on Thinking for a Change from June 2nd to June 5th. This is extremely important for us because this training will help our IP to make better decisions, and they'll provide the skills to work on the cognitive self-change, social improvement, and problem skills development. I want to welcome 3 new employees in our department: substance use counselor Cleaver, case manager Ferrier, and our wellness instructor, Mr. Zavala. And then the next slide is we're actually hiring. So we have a couple of vacancies left, the 2 vacancies for substance use counselors, 1 substance use counselor, and then we still have the position open for our SUD grant for program coordinator and the discharge planner. Before I bring program administrator reentry, Kelly Shaw, is there any question for the board? Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Fowley.
Michelle.
Good evening, members of the board and the public. Thank you for the opportunity to share program and reentry updates from the month of May. During the month of May, we had 3 active cohorts in the First Step program. The First Step program is a job readiness course which connects participants to second chance company interviews post-release. Cohort 25 completed on May 1st. 6 men successfully completed the course. Cohort 26 began on Monday, May 5th. 5 women successfully completed the course. And the women did ask that I share a photo, and I was happy to showcase their achievement in the middle of the slide. Cohort 27 began on Tuesday, May 27th, and 10 men are signed up for the course. The First Step program is funded through the Pathway Home 3 grant. The grant supports enrollment up to the end of June, and the Delaware County Workforce Development Board and EDSI submitted an RFP to continue grant funding. In May, we officially kicked off Cohort 2 of New Leash on Life. Cohort 2 is named the Salad Class. The theme, credit due to Warden Williams. On the right, we have a lineup of our 6 salads: Ambrosio, Cobb, Caprese, Bean, Waldorf, and Chef. And there's a picture of the cohort, the men in orange. And then we have the dogs coming into the facility, and we're happy to have staff assist and welcome the dogs into entering the facility. And for any new viewers, New Leash on Life is a 6-month career readiness program where dogs are rescued from a shelter and brought to live with the population for 12 weeks. During the first 12 weeks, ideally, each dog has 2 handlers. The handlers participate in 5 classes a week: job readiness, life skills, basic animal care, and dog training, in addition to caring for their dog. After 12 weeks, the handlers are paroled early and placed in a paid internship for the next 3 months, and the dogs will have hopefully found their forever home through the New Leash on Life adoption page. On May 19th, Cohort 2 had 5 participants. By June 2nd, we increased to 12 participants. We currently have 11 participants, as 1 is in review due to an alleged facility violation. And an update on Cohort 1 graduates, the fruit class. 4 women successfully completed the program last month and were paroled early. 3 of the women are meeting weekly with New Leash on Life and continue to implement their parole plans. Of those 3 women, 2 are currently working in their paid internship, and the other is prioritizing other reentry needs. And the internship is not time sensitive and will be available when she's ready. 1 woman failed to connect with her parole agent at New Leash and is currently back in custody. Other reentry updates for the month of May: the Delaware County Veterans Department engaged with 1 veteran. Thresholds decision-making course had 15 participants. Our reentry case manager met with 21 sentenced individuals, providing individualized reentry packets. Child and Family Focus Organization facilitated 1 class with our juvenile population. Probation and Parole Drug and Alcohol Liaisons released 51 to inpatient treatment. Delaware County Reentry Program, also referred to as Public Health Management Corporation, or PHMC, had 2 new enrollments. And electronic learning, which is self-paced, free educational courses navigated through the tablet. 579 learning courses were completed on the Adivo platform, and 24 courses were completed on the CyberWorks platform in the month of May. Thank you. Can I answer any questions?
I'd just like to comment that I appreciate just the Leash on Life results from the Cohort 1. And I know that we're working to continually learn how the programs are actually playing out as the people leave the facility, whether it's, how they're reentering and how they're surviving out there and making their way in the world. So I would really appreciate us keeping that up and digging into the other programs as well as we go. But these are all great, great to hear that. Even though it's not 100% successful, I don't know that we could expect that, but.
And of course, we do want 100%
Right.
success rate, and we already started working on different ways to enhance, to possibly prevent someone from returning so quickly.
Right.
So we're
And-
already in the works of that.
Right, and it's a learning experience as we go, and there's new things coming online, so we'll have more data as we go forward, but thank you for that.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I had a comment, if I could. So I'm really liking the program with the dogs, the animals, with the residents. I don't know if this is something you can answer or not. How's the morale with the residents inside the prison with something different? Is that when we're talking about a pet, we're talking about like an emotional support animal, right? How has it made a difference? I always talk about the morale. I have a two-part question, but I always talk about the morale because I get the opportunity to speak to the people that live there and the people that work there, right, who I've known for a very long time. I always try to make my comments and my interests in the morale or the energy of the prison because it makes a difference, a big difference. Sometimes it's hard for people that live there and work there to be honest about where they're really at, to tell someone, to get it to someone like me. I'm a representative of the people of Delaware County, so I want you guys to know and you gals to know that everything I'm saying, everything I'm asking on the behalf of the people of Delaware County. It's never personal. So I say that to say that the dog program, I think it's a great thing of many that can be done. And I just wanted to ask you if you could answer it, if it's possible. How is the morale in the prison since something like that has been there inside? That's one part of my question.
Well, the feedback that I've been getting from the population is the dogs are segregated to one housing unit. And before the dogs even come, anyone is given the option due to allergies, due to not being comfortable around dogs, to leave the unit. No one chose to do that. They all wanted to stay.
Of course.
They absolutely love having the dogs here, but they are disappointed because there are strict rules where only the handlers can hold the leash, where everyone does want to hold the leash and walk them. They are allowed to pet and love them, but the people, the participants assigned to the dogs are the ones who are supposed to have the leash in their hand at all times. And the other populations where the program is not on the unit, they kind of wish, like, oh, I wish it could have been on my unit.
That is fantastic. I love to hear something like that, something different of chances that we take that we never done before. It usually turns out really well, right? And when it's different. The other thing I wanted to just have a comment, and I talked about this years ago, is about thresholds, right? I'm familiar with them. I'm familiar with the program. I think it's necessary when we're talking about decision making, because relationship capital to me is important. For some people that don't know about it, maybe especially the residents that live in there, I would love to see Threshold have a part of that program outside of the world. And I only say that because I went through that program before. I think as a young person, if I had somebody to call, right, that had some training, that had the skill set to be able to talk me down, right, or whatever it may look like, it would be a great benefit. Now, I know that's not the question you can answer, right, because you don't run Thresholds, but how could we, or would someone propose something like that to have that possibility for someone who's going through the program and still need help after they get out?
I was going to jump in, though. Kelly may know better. Thresholds is an entirely volunteer-led organization. And some of the most, this isn't to say that other people aren't, but seeing them, I mean, this was one of the programs, while I wasn't there, they never stopped even during COVID. And they were one of the only organizations that continued to come into a congregate setting during COVID, which I think is an enormous testament to the level of commitment that they truly have to the work that is done. They have been seeking support. I don't know to what degree or what level of success in gaining either additional funding sources or more volunteers. It is a largely successful program and one that I think is well received by the population, but I don't think the organization has the resources available to really support further growth. But you are right about all I didn't know about, and thank you for sharing your personal experience, but It is definitely an organization that we support. I remember very early on, Kelly had introduced them to me. We met with them prior to the transition, letting them know we still supported the work that they were doing. But I think that they're just limited and challenged. And that's not because they don't have incredible individuals working with that agency.
Yeah, so I started in an agency and we all used to volunteer until some of our lights got cut off and our water got cut off and we were getting ready to get evicted. Eventually, it has to change, right? So I know we in Delaware County, we spread a lot of money around on things that whoever's in charge that think is important according to our residents. I just think this is an opportunity to send this message back to them, and maybe they're watching tonight. If they work on getting funding to stipend people to help them, it would be a big deal. Even if it was gas money or lunch money, right? I know about the program in and out. I know how it operates. I'm only saying this with experience that I have my own self and people that I work with. I think it would be a great idea if we can try to help them find some kind of funding. Because see, I'm gonna do everything I have to do if I'm in prison to get out. I'm going to do all of those things. I'm going to do every rule. I'm going to go to every program and all that. But when you get outside in the free world, it's different because you're not going out there to work volunteer for nobody, right? You still need that ongoing support in the world when you're dealing with all these obstacles. And I'm preaching to the choir because you guys know this. I just think it's a great opportunity. If that's something that we can look into since they've been inside our prison over 20 years. I know for a fact. That might be something that we can try to help them to get the resources outside so they can continue it outside. So when a person has to make a decision from the things that he's been taught in prison, he can call somebody that actually showed them how to make decisions to get that support. So that's my comment.
I think it's maybe this is some of the exposure that they need. For people who might be listening, that Thresholds is a program with longevity and commitment and incredible tenacity and resiliency, and that they really care about the population. And I also think there's a potential opportunity. I know the Delaware County or Coalition for Reentry, which you are a part of, and many of us are a part of. We're in a transitional phase and we're looking for new leadership, and maybe there are some opportunities within that organization that we could find to support. I think the challenge with Thresholds is that a lot of the funding or grant opportunities that are available in Delaware County, it's not that we don't value Thresholds, we do. They don't necessarily meet those very stringent funding requirements, of which are, very based in a lot of other things going on. So I hope they are listening, and I'm sure that they appreciate everything that you've said about them this evening.
Well, you guys got my number.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the podium, Director of Records, Mike Rood.
Thank you, Michelle.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you to the Jail Oversight Board for giving me this opportunity to discuss my team and their job functions. I also want to thank the warden for this opportunity and for giving me the support and resources we need to be successful. Just a quick introduction. My name is Michael Root. I started at George W. Hill Correctional Facility in 2009 as a correctional officer. I was then promoted to sergeant and then promoted to lieutenant. And then I became the records manager. And I currently am the director of records, booking, and video room services. So just to get into a little bit with the booking department, this is going to be one of the first sit-down conversations that the incarcerated person is going to have with one of our staff members, and the booking specialist is going to be collecting data to input into our offender management system. The data includes, but is not limited to, their name, date of birth, social security number, race, sex, physical characteristics, religion, address, emergency contact, It's not always the easiest thing to do. The incarcerated person could be at the lowest point in their life, so it's getting that information out, and they do it in a professional manner. They're also going to be inputting the initial cases and charges anywhere between not paying child support and being accused of murder, everything in between. They're going to be putting in their bail amounts and any non-monetary conditions that are required in bail. Anybody that comes in on a failure to appear bench warrant that requires a hearing in a certain amount of time, they're going to request that hearing at that point. They're also going to complete the Prison Rape Elimination Act initial screener. And basically what that is that's going to help identify the potential for victimization for a new commit while incarcerated. And then the staff from that point forward will use that in determining housing and stuff like that. They're going to create the legal file while at that point, and that file is going to follow them through their current incarceration. The booking specialist will begin the process for potential after-hour releases. Many times after hours and on weekends and holidays and stuff, people post bail online, or they come to the facility to post cash bail. They start that process with checking for warrants, making sure that they're eligible for release. The booking specialist role is pivotal in the effective running of our facility. Transferring a new commit from intake to their next housing destination helps maintain safety and security. Their hard work and dedication assists in this timely transfer. Get into the records department. The department consists of 12 staff members. We have coverage provided for Monday through Friday. Basically, whenever the court's open, we're going to be open. Records is in charge of the incarcerated person's legal file after booking has completed their function. New court orders are constantly flowing in, such as bail adjustments, new cases, sentencing info. And they're going to be responsible for updating the file and our offender management system until that person is discharged. As new cases are received that require a timely hearing, sometimes that might not occur at booking. Sometimes we may get that paperwork a week later, or a warrant may be issued after the fact. And the records technician will make sure that that hearing is scheduled appropriately. This can include extradition hearings, domestic relation hearings, and other Rule 150 hearings. All sentence calculations are processed by records. The sentence sheet is received from the courts and credit time is determined. Good time is determined too, if eligible, and a release date is generated. This goes through a 3-tier approval process. One records tech will set up the calculations and 2 supervisors will approve it. This is then shared with case management and the incarcerated individual. At this point is where we request the sentencing conditions that could be involved. And we coordinate with the appropriate department, such as if they're ordered to go into the prep department, if they're ordered anger management, if they're ordered the sex offender program. It's the records technician who's going to send that out to the appropriate department to make sure that they get into that program as soon as possible. 2 specialty caseloads that I just wanted to touch on is we have our state inmate caseload. Basically, after someone is sentenced to state time, the state needs additional paperwork. It's referred to as the 300B. We have a specific records tech, Beth. She's amazing, and she's going to work with the state, do all that paperwork and make sure that the population is moving and getting out of the facility as quick as possible. The other.
Can I just hop in real quick with that? So one thing that I wasn't sure if he was going to highlight, we hadn't really talked through this, but it's important to note. Most agencies do not do the 300B paperwork on site. We are one of the agencies that does, which is not only in partnership and great assistance with a lot of other entities, but it also reduces the unnecessary wait times for individuals who are sentenced to remain in our custody, and then they are transferred more swiftly to the SCIs, which is where they're going to start their sentence time. A lot of agencies, including my former, rely upon the courts or other departments to complete that paperwork, which does contribute to longer wait times for individuals to be transferred. So the fact that under Director Root's leadership, this is something that is done efficiently and accurately, that is actually something that is atypical for most county correctional agencies. And so I just wanted to make sure that that was highlighted and pointed out, because that is something that really is above and beyond what you would see many agencies doing.
Another specialty caseload that I wanted to touch on was our self-commit caseload. A judge will sentence an incarcerated person who's on the street to, it could be weekends, it could be an 11.5 to 23-month sentence, it could be a state sentence, and they give them a specific report date to George W. Hill. We have a records tech, Kayla, who's amazing as well, who tracks all these, and she'll send out daily lists that's shared with the intake staff so they know who to expect, when to expect them, what the sentence is, so housing can be adjusted as appropriate. She also tracks anybody that doesn't show up for their sentence, so the appropriate warrant can be issued, and all that.
Director Root, I apologize for interrupting you. I'm going to be passing the chairing duties over to Executive Director O'Malley. I need to fight traffic to the airport, but thank you for coming today.
One of the main responsibilities of records is the processing of releases. This includes bails, sentences, dismissals, and other court orders. Before they're released, it's the records technician who's going to confirm that all cases are completed and conditions have been met. One thing I want to highlight is that an example of this that the staff is trained in is that if somebody needs some type of evaluation prior to release, but is otherwise ready for release, like a psychological or drug and alcohol, the staff is trained to review that evaluation to determine if anything's needed, if they need inpatient treatment, if they need mental health services set up. So it's going to be us notifying the appropriate departments prior to them getting out that that stuff needs to be set up. We check for outstanding warrants. Staff is JNet and Clean certified, which allows for these warrant searches, as well as a review of criminal history. Training and certification on that is yearly. Some of the other coordination for releases that we're going to look at is we have like the pretrial bail office. If somebody who needs to be released to electric home monitoring and they're ready to go, we're the ones notifying them, hey, they're ready to go. And then the pretrial bail office is going to set up that transportation. Or if they need inpatient treatment, the drug and alcohol liaisons we're going to notify them to set that up. Or if they need mental health services in place, we're going to notify the liaisons. Once all the items are resolved, then a release goes through that same 3-tier process for approval, 1 records tech and 2 supervisors. If an incarcerated person is finished with Delaware County but has a detainer in another jurisdiction like New Jersey, Delaware, Montgomery County, Chester County, the records tech reaches out to the demanding jurisdiction to set up a transport date, and they will follow up with them as needed. Their hard work, dedication, and communication with all departments inside and outside of George W. Hill is a key factor in achieving the effective population management. They make me look good every day, and I will forever be in their debt. I want to give a special thank you to Assistant Director Melissa Cobham. I couldn't do this at a high level without her. Third department is the video room services. The day-to-day operations are led by Raven Haggerty. So there's 8 audio and visual rooms in operation. We're seeing anywhere between 600 and 800 scheduled meetings. This could be either a court appearance or they could be meeting with a lawyer. all classifications of incarcerated persons are scheduled. So there's a lot of planning that goes into that. Because there's only 8 rooms, it's sometimes harder to get people in there and out quicker. The staffing is 1 supervisor, which is Raven, and 2 correctional officers. And the responsibilities include managing the audiovisual equipment, handling court-related documents. A lot of those documents need to be signed by the incarcerated population and sent back to the courts, so they're managing all of that. What are some of the things that can be done over video? You have your regular court hearings. You can have Gagnon 1s, Gagnon 2s, formal arraignments, magisterial district judge arraignments, Rule 150s, fast tracks, extraditions, civil and family proceedings. You can have PFA court. You can have CYS hearings, domestic relations, custody hearings. And you're also going to have legal consultants with the public defender's office or private attorney that's going to be meeting with them, as well as evaluations, psychologicals, DNAs, risk assessments, all these evaluations that can be done over video. Some of the cost and security advantages, it reduces transportation. So if you don't have to transport somebody direct to media or to the district court, it's naturally going to save money. It's going to save on security because that person's not physically leaving the building. We also do multiple outside county and state hearings, which I think builds a strong relationship with our criminal justice partners and other jurisdictions. Some of the benefits, it also helps if staff can testify through video, then they don't have to leave the facility. That's going to cut down in an hour to get there, hour to get back, and that they're back on shift. Some of the improvements and outcomes, Raven was able to implement a refusal form for video court documentation. This helps track why somebody is saying they're not going to go to court or anything like that. It also it helps reduce it. All refusals are tracked and followed up on to avoid delays. And like I said, it has helped decrease the amount. Improved communication. I know Raven is communicating with the public defender's office, the judge's chambers on a routine basis. And she is outstanding with what she's doing. She's very proactive. She goes to the units. She helps collect the inmates to bring them to court when otherwise maybe they just wouldn't go. Having her on the George W. Hill team is a blessing, and we are lucky to have her. And that's it. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Thank you for your report. Seems like you do a lot. My question is in reference to those who are on bail. Are they allowed to complete a voter's registration form or a ballot when it's time to vote?
I would defer to Deputy Warden Fowle for that.
Is that brought up when you're doing the intake?
I know that when they meet with the case manager, they have the opportunity, and the case manager, you ask them if they're registered to vote, and then they get access to it.
Say that a little slower.
I'm sorry. I know that they have the opportunity to register for when they meet the case manager, and the case manager asks them if they're registered to vote. If they're not registered to vote, they're able to vote, to register for voting.
How soon do they see the case manager when they come in?
It within, depend on when they come in. If they come in over the weekend, they'll within 48 hours. But usually when they're seen by the case manager, just one of the question at the initial meeting that they ask.
Very good.
Hi, this is Judge Deb. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to first of all attest to all the hard work that Mike's department does. We see it, all the judges see it on a daily basis. I mean, there is just a lot that happens in court. And because of what we are doing, we have to rely on Mike's department to kind of help out with sentencing conditions and bail conditions and all of that, all of our hearings. Raven is a huge help, as Mike said. So I just wanted to say, Mike, I don't think you and I have actually met in person, but I certainly am working with all the people in your department on a daily basis, and you guys are doing a great job.
Appreciate that, Your Honor.
I just had a question. It sounded like you were fully staffed. Maybe you're not, maybe there are a few openings, but what is the background of someone that wants to be in this? I know you came out as started as a corrections officer, but what kind of background are you looking for people in this job? This was fascinating. I know you're up there. I hear about the department all the time, but I didn't know what you exactly did. So this was really helpful to me. So.
Yeah, I mean, any background working in any type of correctional setting is always good, but not needed. Would be my
really
opinion.
The linchpin to everybody's, where they end up, or
Good.
where they start out and where they end up. So really critical.
I would say that you don't, so number one, the department I do believe is fully staffed right now.
Yes.
Yeah, so we don't have any vacancies, but individuals are required to have a high school diploma and an interest and a willingness to learn. I think that Director Root and his entire department, and I truly mean that, his entire department, even staff that are newer, have been very excited and enthusiastic to train new employees and or cross-train each other. So it's somebody who's interested in learning about the criminal justice field, and records techs positions exist in every correctional agency. You become so acutely familiar with the criminal justice system, maybe far more than some of our officers ever have to be, because a lot of the work is very different. They're understanding what are the legal obligations and remanding somebody to custody, whereas somebody else is learning how to safely encourage or maintain that person within custody. But his entire team, sorry, didn't mean to hit you, they do go through an extensive training program that is developed both by him and his assistant director, as well as he had referenced, going through NCIC, JNet. They're becoming so aware of the criminal justice system. Reading sentencing orders, now once you know how to do it, it's relatively easy, but it will look like a foreign language initially. And I think that's what Judge Kroll is talking about. It's always best to have a second set of eyes to make sure that we understand, to get clarity on an order, so that we're not violating somebody's rights and that we're doing all of the different things that we need to. No agency would survive without their records department. No counties would be in a lot of trouble if they didn't have individuals in his department doing the work that they do. So you don't have to have a background. You just have to be able to learn, be organized, be thoughtful, and be diligent.
I have a question. First, I want to say amazing work. Without you, some people probably wouldn't make it home, right? So we need guys like you in your department. Kudos to the work you do.
Appreciate that.
This question is for like you and maybe even a warden as well. One of the other phone calls that we get / emails sometimes is about a person not making it to court because he don't want to or she don't want to, or for some reason she got lost in the mix. Now, the warden know I made these phone calls sometimes, and I'm so glad that you gave this presentation because it gave me a better snapshot. Because I like to answer my constituents authentically, and if I really don't know the answer, I'll call the warden or call Kelly, or I'll direct them right to them, right? Because I'm not trying to be, I'm just a bridge, right, for our community. So my question is, if a loved one called and said my son or daughter didn't make it to court, who will the call go to find out why? And can they find out why? Because sometimes it's we can't release, it's a security issue. People just want to know if their loved one is okay. So I'm asking this question for the people of Delaware County. This is a really important question for the people. So
Yeah, absolutely. So whether the refusal is coming from video court or even outside court, we have a form there that will be filled out that will state why. and document it.
So can,
Hold on, I want to jump in because there could be a number of reasons why somebody didn't go to court. It's
Okay.
not always that the incarcerated individual is refusing. We do track that information, and I think that's been some of the conversations we've had over the last couple of years. And so we do communicate, the sheriffs participate in that if they're scheduled to go to the common pleas court. Constables will participate if it's at the MDJ level. There could also be changes. So oftentimes people are anticipating that somebody is scheduled for court, and for whatever reason, that court date was moved or rescheduled, and maybe everybody didn't get that messaging as quickly as possible. And so sometimes we get notified by the sheriffs, who are directly notified by the courts that this person can be removed from the listing. Director Root's department typically lets us know that the second that they're aware. It could be that they were changed, dates within that week, or that maybe there was some separate issue. The one thing that we may not get into the detail is if they are not presently in our custody, meaning maybe they had a medical appointment that conflicted with their court date. We may not give the full details because that might include the location of where they're at, but there could be a number of different reasons why. To answer your question directly, yes, I would know, Director Root would know, and we would be able to respond.
because I got kind of lost. Rhetorically, I'm John. I'm calling because James didn't come to court.
Mhm.
And maybe I called someone from the jail oversight board because I know they're on the board. And I've been calling the prison, and it's like everybody I call, no one's giving me an answer. I'm getting like blown off. Sometimes somebody might not answer. What would I do if whatever the situation is there an answer that can be given to the loved one that would satisfy their curiosity or what's going on with their loved one without legal bureaucracy being involved of them knowing nothing? So see, here's the thing, right? People in the community, they just want to know something. They don't have to know the stuff that they're not supposed to know. But if I call and somebody blows me off or somebody says, yeah, we can't tell you. Now I'm disappointed, right? So I'm only saying this to say that, is there an answer that could be given to the loved one out here in our community to satisfy their curiosity to know? Because guess what? They only want to know if their loved one is okay. So I'm asking the question that way, in this fashion, because out of all of the phone calls or emails I get, this is one of them I think that is important. And I'm sure the community would love to know what steps they would need to take in order to be satisfied for their answer.
There's definitely not a generic answer to give to that. But what I would say is one of the things that I wanted to make sure happened during the beginning of the transition was to get my information out there. So if you go to the website, my information is all over it, the George W. Hill website. And I want that. I want family to reach out to me directly if they have a problem, so I can look into it. And we get to far places doing that. So yeah, I'm always I think one of my best abilities is availability. So I'll be there if anybody needs me.
This is Deb Love. I just have a question regarding Jonathan's questioning. Is there a list or a list of who can know where the person is? Because just as the warden was concerned about giving too much information about where the patient, sorry, you can tell my background, where the resident is versus notifying somebody that shouldn't be notified where the person is or isn't. Is there such a parameter for everyone?
Generally speaking, when somebody's calling about somebody, we usually have them verify some demographic information, tell us what the relationship is to the patient or inmate. If it is related to health information, we have to have a consent. There is some information which is publicly available of which we would be able to disclose with relative ease. And so a court date can be found within the United Justice System portal, and anybody anybody can look that information up. So that information is not difficult. Anything else, we would have to require some additional information to verify that person's identity, their relationship, and whether or not a consent would be required.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for your presentation, and I have heard wonderful things about you specifically too, so just wanted to thank you. And also regarding video court, I just wondered, do you have a capacity to handle additional hearings or all the different things that you do with video court? Do you have the capacity there?
That's kind of what we're doing now. They just started some new hearings recently, and I know they're trying to add some more on. It's a challenge. And the staff is constantly working towards what the courts need.
Is the challenge due to space or equipment or staff?
All three. So as Director Root had indicated, we have 8 simultaneous courtrooms, which is why we're at the volume that we are, which is actually an expansion of what we had previously been in. And Raven, I can't remember if you mentioned this, has been tracking data, so you can see how that has improved over the last couple of years. But resource limited, so we don't actually have holding space that would really allow us to increase capacity either. So unfortunately, we typically have very hardworking judges who have a very full list of individuals who need to be seen. And usually they're all listed for the exact same time, potentially an 8:30 a.m. hearing, even though we know that all 60 of them will not be in front of a judge at 8:30 a.m. But when the judge does call them, they are expected to present in front of the screen. I think there's oftentimes a lot of forgiveness when we're showing up physically in person. Somebody's walking, you can see that they're coming. And if we can't get those individuals in front of the screen quickly enough, because we don't have the holding space. So the building was not necessarily constructed in a manner. Potentially, we could look towards a relocation of the area into a part of the agency that might have a larger footprint. And then we could. And I think many agencies have found the benefit in increasing their capacity of video court in a number of different courtrooms to really reduce on the demands of the sheriff's department for transfer. I know our courthouse is also limited in resources of holding space too. So it might be something, it's not part of our current capital planning, that we would look towards the future.
Thank you.
I have just one more question.
Okay.
During your intake, do you write down next of kin?
We do.
You do?
Yes, we'll get an
So-
emergency contact, yes.
Would that person be allowed to call up? Does everyone get a case manager?
Yes.
Okay, so if someone wants to call up and wanted to know about their child, would they ask for the case manager under that person's name?
They could. What specific things would you be referring to? Just like how they're doing?
Well, sometimes there's incidences that happen and folks don't know if their loved one is involved. So if they wanted to call up to make sure that their loved one, or maybe they may have heard on the street, your loved one has got hurt. And so they called up and wanted to find out if their loved one was okay. Would they ask for the case manager?
They could ask for the case manager. The case manager could talk to the incarcerated person, see if there's anything going on
Okay.
and all that.
Do you have someone there 24 hours?
For case management?
Yes.
No, they are Monday through Friday.
No, okay, so it's no weekends, but I mean, is it like they're off at 5 o'clock? Do you have them up to a certain hour of the day?
The case managers work 8 to 4.
Oh, so that's 8 to 4. So if it's after 4 o'clock, what happens?
There's still security staff there.
And they would go and find out?
And
Okay.
the public would have access to call our front reception, which happens on the weekend all the time. If somebody pays bail online, they could call our front reception, and that's who's telling me that, hey, this person's bail's been posted. So there is ways to communicate with the jail if the case managers aren't here.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Any new business?
I just wanted to note for the members of the board that there's currently audits going on from my office working with Deputy Mastrody and her people, mainly Deputy Mastrody, getting us documents. And we expect that the audit for the 2 audits that we do will be forthcoming in the relatively near future. So I just want to thank you for your assistance and let you all know that'll be for 2024.
Okay. Any old business? Okay. Public comment. You have public comment. They're invited to come up, state your name and municipality, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Robert Ciccanelli. I'm from Havertown, and I'm here representing the Delco Coalition for Prison Reform. As we pass the 3-year mark since our jail was returned to direct public management, the Delco Coalition for Prison Reform is pleased to present our annual assessment of the progress that's been made on the reforms that we had proposed. Key to the report are 2 things. One, that the membership of Delco CPR is entirely residents of Delaware County. And 2, that we do not move the goalposts. We clearly laid out all of our expectations in writing to the county government, and we continue to evaluate the progress against those expectations. We're happy to report that progress continues. Of the 56 items that we have scored in this report, 46% of them now meet or exceed our expectations at the 3-year mark. And another 25% are approaching those expectations. We are concerned that some of our proposed reforms have not only been unaddressed, but haven't even been acknowledged. We do hope that there will be some conversations on these in the future. We greatly appreciate the continuing relationship with this board and with the jail administration. Warden Williams and her team have been totally transparent with us. They welcome our input, which we find refreshing. And we do look forward to a lot more progress in this, the 4th year. And I just want to say, we talk about 3 years under public management, but our organization's been around for 7.5 years. So we have an organizational memory of what it was. And I can tell you that those are vivid memories that we do not forget. The dire condition, not only of the physical structure, but of the conditions under which our friends and family members lived in that place. And when I look back on 7.5 years, first of all, I can't believe it's been 7.5 years, but I also, I cannot overstate the dramatic changes that we have seen. And that, our organization is pleased with the progress that's being made. And we are confident that we will not only be good, but we will become the prototype for county corrections in Pennsylvania. Thank you. And sure, my God.
For public comment.
Kimberly Brown Cowan. My first note is if you guys can look at the report from last month about the full recreation and the non-recreation that was provided compared to this month. Please look at the units that's listed last month and this month. Next thing I want to say, Ms. O'Malley, you had stated that there's opioid substance funds, and you're looking for ideas of what to do with the funds. Hopefully, there's an email that staff at George W. Hill can email for suggestion for programs at George W. Hill for substance abuse, because right now there's a MAT program that I'm still trying to figure out what services are being offered for the MAT program. Ms. Williams said there's 171 inmates that's on the program. What services? Just giving them the medication and have them find K2 in the jail and smoking on the units, that's not services, because all they're doing is getting released and coming right back. The budget task force, hopefully there's an open meeting for the budget task force, because there is conflicted challenges, I think, with the budget at George W. Hill, because you have jobs given to certain people without even being posted for others to apply. The new leash program is very interesting. I'm glad that Ms. Kelly Shaw was transparent about how it wasn't successful, but she leaves to forget to acknowledge that the start of the men's program started out on the rocky on day 2 because somehow a dog was inside the cell while the inmates were smoking. And that person, hopefully, is not a part of the program. Ms. Penny, you had asked about case management. Right now, I'm on a unit, I have 4 blocks, and it's just me in the office. And each block has about 50 inmates. So when you see the inmates, you try to see them within that week, but at times it is hard when you're just one case manager. Case management doesn't ask if the inmates are registered to vote. So we don't ask. The only time we do that is around election time. And that's about it. And then about the courts, when there's a security issue, because not a security issue, when the inmates can't go to court, at times there are new officers on the unit. So at times they don't know that. So therefore I would have to go down and tell them what inmates have to go to court.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Mhm. Okay. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to board member comments. I did want to start just by thanking Delco CPR for all their work. Again, not just in the last 3 years, but even prior, documenting the issues and concerns and advocating for better care and treatment for both the staff at the facility and the incarcerated people there. And this is a very comprehensive report, and I do think it'd be, I would recommend to the board that maybe we do spend some time with CPR to talk about some of the issues and identify the high priorities for you and your team and make sure that we are making progress where we need to. And also regarding the opioid task force, I highly recommend that people work through their chain of command, addressing, talking to that idea with the sergeant and making sure that it gets brought to the attention of administration. Again, there are proposals and plans, and I am certain a good idea could come from any staff person, and want to make sure that people, anyone within the facility, feels comfortable approaching their management team with ideas for that funding, whether it's existing services or something new that could help people. Any other board comments?
I just wanted to say, I've been here 7.5 years, not on this board because it didn't exist, but I've been in the county for 7.5 years, and the jail topic came up pretty much on my first week here. And the transformation of many things has been really extraordinary. I don't think people necessarily have, unless you were here and you're on the ground looking at what was going on and how it was going on and what you could find out and where a meeting was and what was happening at a supposed public meeting, you just can't even necessarily appreciate the transparency that we have now and the information that's available to the public about our programs and our population and what the board's working on and what the people are doing in the facility, our staff and our capital improvements. So yes, there's always improvements to be made with staff and working conditions and our incarcerated people, their conditions, our programs, our funding, our the buildings. But from where we started, when I can recall people from CPR trying to get into a meeting and being kept out, it's really stark difference. And I think we need to keep our eye on the ball, and where we'll be in another 7.5 years, I hope continued progress for everybody. And we keep working on the reentry and getting people so they don't come back. They don't have to come back. So I just want to say, I've said it before too, but it's been really a major difference from when we started. And it's something that I will always stand by of what we did to bring the jail back to our public control, because that's where it should be. So I appreciate this report, and I would like to, give CPR more than 3 minutes to go through the report and really give us some detail about what they found and where we can, and get our views on where we can, where can we make differences and changes, and where it's going to be not necessarily the priority or how we prioritize these things. So thank you. And thanks to everyone that's a volunteer on that organization. Thank you. Went on too long, but
Yes,
I feel it.
3 minutes.
Sorry.
I have to concur with my colleague there. I mean, I've been here when this board first started, and my journey did start with CPR. I'm a product of that. 7.5 years ago, when they had the idea of doing it, somebody tricked me into going one of their meetings. And I was recruited through the Delaware County because of my background, and I don't have any regrets. And Bob, you're an awesome guy. The work that you guys do has been authentic since the day I started working, even in this county, of doing this kind of work. So I know what it took. I know how hard it was to even ever get into prison to talk to anybody. And Warden Williams, I just want to let you know that you stepped into some big shoes. I am very passionate about the people in our community. And like I said earlier, it's never personal. It's more about our citizens in this county to be better. And I've been put on this board because of that, because they know I'm one of the ones that can help it to be better, to build that bridge and to build the trust back from our community so we can be better. And listen, whether it's good news or bad news, people just want to hear the news, right? They just want to hear something. You're not always going to get what you want in this world, right, altogether. So I'm very passionate about the work that I do on this board. I know that my work and my vision, my ideas, my thoughts, my past, all of the things that I've learned to be one of the best citizens in this county, I've learned from life experience. I'm giving that all to you guys so we can try to find a way to make a place where people stop sometimes, right, for decisions that they have made, right, temporarily, because everybody in that prison is only there temporarily. And I bear witness with my own life that they can change, with my own life as an example. So I'm gonna always be diligent, hard, passionate. I'm gonna ask those tough questions. I wanna have those uncomfortable conversations so we can figure a way to become partners in this county, in this community, so people can be better when they leave for prison. So I thank you. I just want to let you know that. And Bob, I definitely thank you. You recruited me along with your team, and I'm so grateful for this board. This is an awesome team. And I hope and pray that things get better in the future for Delaware County Prison. Thank you.
I want to concur with everything that was said by my colleagues and the board members. Years ago, when I worked for a state rep, and I had to call up to George W. Hill many, many times, and I was, the response was very rude and disrespectful, and especially disrespectful to the state rep. We couldn't get any answers. Many people were fearful, and they called the office. And so I just want to say to the team, I appreciate you. I'm happy to be on this board, and my motive and my energy and all of my experiences, last 25 years working with the state institutions, I want to use it all to help to build all kind of bridges, to help the folks that are incarcerated, because there are people, they're people from our community, and we want to help them in areas that may not be on the books, and perhaps we're going to have to communicate to the judges some of the things that we need to do. Case in point, there's a lot of folks that have mental health issues, and I'm sure that you have to log some things in. I don't know if you find out after the fact that they have mental issues or not, But my heart wants to do something about it, to see if we can do any way I could help, suggestion wise or whatever, to help, so that we can get people the help that they need so that they can become whole. And I know it's just a short time that they're going to be with you guys, but you have a team, you have an excellent team that's doing what they can to bridge the gap, to help people to become whole. And so anything that I can do, I'm willing to do it. My motto with my organization is not to let your past dictate your future. And so I'm here to help.
Any more board comments? It's a lovely way to end the meeting. Thank you for those kind words. Do I have an emotion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Those ones you have.
It's okay.
Someone making electronics.
What are you doing?